What are some challenges you faced while moving to Canada for work?
They think that you can't speak English.
Canada doesn't program you to work and enjoy your work.
How different are the salaries in Canada compared to in Mexico?
Money just goes.
Do you have any regrets moving to Canada?
Sometimes it's just hard to make friends here.
More than 400,000 immigrants came to Canada last year alone. And while coming here is quite glamorized to the outside world, the realities of working here can be quite different if you come with false expectations. So we're asking immigrants from other countries, what's it like to work here? And all of our guests gave some great advice at the end of the video to those who are considering to move to Canada for work. Where are you from?
Nigeria,
Mumbai.
Mexico City,
Sri Lanka,
India.
Bangladesh,
What do you do in Canada?
medical doctor.
software engineer.
Project coordinator.
I work as an architect.
property accountant.
How different is work in your country compared to the work in Canada?
That's completely different because here I have a good work balance. I can just go out by 5, rush back home, enjoy my summer hours. But then back home, it was a bit difficult because I was occupied with a lot of deadlines. Here, work-life balance is much more stable for me.
In Mexico, you have to work long hours, and here you have to work just specific hours.
Two sides. In Nigeria, we are more culturally oriented. Canada is more regimented. You get to your place of work, you already have your schedule. You see task shift duty. Do this, do this, do this. Done, not done. Why? Kind of make you feel on edge. So Canada makes you feel like you're working for your money. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, you're working and you're enjoying your work. Canada doesn't program you to work and enjoy your work.
The work culture is probably very different. Over here, Canadians are generally professional, and doesn't matter how low you are in the hierarchy of the structure, everybody's respected.
I was working in a corporate way back home in Sri Lanka, and it was much easier to get in because of your network back home. Coming into Canada, it was much harder, especially like landing your first job.
How different are the salaries in Canada compared to your country?
Here, most of the salaries goes to taxes, and back in my country it's like 15%, so things are not so good.
In Mexico, you can have a good salaries depending which position you have, which provides you a good living in Mexico. Here, you may have a 60K of the year. You are on the average of income. Right now, it's kind of a bit expensive here.
Definitely much better in terms of the pay here in Canada. That's one of the main reasons for people move into Canada, for a better life, to make more money. Again, depends on the role. We also have to pay, you're taxed as you make more income here.
Salaries in Nigeria is better, you understand? Because I can be making an equivalent of $1,000 in Nigerian naira. The amount that I'm going to spend out of that $1,000 to get my house, rent, everything may just be about 300 or 400. I have opportunity to save. Well, you can't try that here in Canada.
Your rent takes...
It's not even enough. So it's like they give and they take.
And what about the people at work?
Oh, they're amazing. They're super cooperative, they're respectful, very appreciative of the work.
Well, basically in Mexico, when you work with other Mexicans, it's like a more party, you know? Yeah, we spend a lot of time talking together and going for the coffee, you know? Yeah, and here the culture is like a more formal. I mean, the people are more quiet.
That's why we love Mexicans. What are some challenges you face while coming to Canada to work?
A house and
Housing.
Finding places.
Housing is expensive, quite expensive. You know, in Mexico, I own my own apartment, so I didn't have to spend on rent.
house hunt was a bit difficult for me because it's just too pricey here. Since I was the first one in my family to move, so I did not have any background and I could ask questions. So I was like a child just adapting to the situation everywhere here. But yes, initially house hunting.
Finding places is really hard. Like when I spent 1 month in Airbnb while I was working, so it was tough for me that time.
Would you ever recommend anyone from your country to come to Canada to work?
Yes, they do have to remember, though, there is bias against immigrants, but I think that's changing to be more favorable. I think people are recognizing the talent immigrants bring, and that is changing. I moved here a long time ago, and I experienced bias. It took time to change that, and I've seen a shift.
Could you give us an example of what kind of bias an immigrant can experience?
Like, they don't want to hire you. They think that you can't speak English or cannot communicate or have an accent. They equate that to you not being competent at your job, which is not the case.
Have you experienced anything in particular?
Yeah, when I first moved here, I wouldn't get hired just because I was an immigrant. They would be like, oh, I don't know how good she is. There were people that were willing to give me a chance, and then obviously I made my way up.
If you get a high-paying job, then come. Otherwise, No.
Why would you say that?
Because Canada, especially in ITs, it's not like USA or Europe, to be honest. Here is mostly service industries. Here people like give services for the multi-millionaire organization, but they are not actually developing things there. And very few mind-blowing startups are there. Most of the jobs are there in USA or in Europe. So
Yes, depends on their field. If they're in tech field, they would prefer to go to US. Canada is basically considered as a labor country where labor-oriented work is more predominant.
Yeah, for sure. I have many friends trying to come. They've been asking me how I do to come here to Canada, and I explained it.
So if you're from Mexico, you know this guy, he can help you out.
Come on.
Is immigrating to Canada very glamorized to the outside world?
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's so expensive. Mortgage, rent, groceries, everything. Going to a restaurant, money just goes so fast. Also, if you don't have family support and you have trouble making friends, it can make you prone to anxiety and depression. So that's also something to be aware of.
Do you have any regrets moving to Canada?
Not yet. Not yet, yes.
That's awesome to hear.
At the beginning, I had a regret. I had my regrets, but the reason why my regrets were very limited was because I knew what I was going into. I knew it was going to be, there were going to be challenges. But, the unemployment rate, the housing, the discriminations, sometimes you don't prepare for some of these things. Even if you knew theoretically that you're going to face them, when they hit you, then you know that it's real.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to move to Canada from your country?
whatever education you have, make it transferable so it can be transferred to any country. Study according to this job market, like which skill or which part of education you should focus right now.
Though Vancouverites or even I would say Canadians are referred to as very super friendly people, but then also at our stage, it's just difficult to make friends, but then just believe in yourself and you'll be good to go.
No, don't come to Canada if you're stable back home. It's not worth it. It's a mirage. And that's the truth. For example, coming to Canada as a consultant psychiatrist, I had my hospital, I had the money, I had my driver, I had everything working. I had 3 vehicles. I had built a house and I was living in a duplex. But why did I come? Some of us, we looked at it and we said, you know what? For the sake of my children.
So did you come to Canada mainly for your kids?
2 things. I wanted the international community to benefit from my wealth of knowledge. I also benefit from them and use it to build Africa. And at the same time, Canada is rewarding me with citizenship that my children will benefit from.
The change and the challenge is going to be hard. It's not easy. It's really, really hard. But it works.
Yeah, so I actually know a few people that have moved here. Things are very, very expensive, and sometimes an income is not enough. Like you have to make big sacrifices, and the standard of living here is like really high. So I think you just have to be aware that it'll be hard. Sure, it looks glamorous, but it's hard to try and make that one paycheck work for you. The work is good, the work culture is good. If you work hard, then you can make it.
I would definitely tell them what I was not told of. Keep things real. I've noticed they give them false expectations, like they tell them you can make this much amount of money and you can grow this fast. But I try to tell them the reality. It's not. It's always a grind. It's not. Life is not always easy here.
Thank you so much for watching to the end, gang. Kaizabi is all about exploring what it means to be a human in the modern world. If you vibe with my mission, then please subscribe to my channel and I'll see you in the next video.